Clause 31 of PAM contract is about the outbreak of hostilities. There are 4 sub-clauses under these sections. For full statement, you may refer to PAM contract 2018. We shall discuss the item under these sections one by one. First of all, what is outbreak of hostilities? This is referring to attacks or incidents related to terrorism, which involve military actions. This is in fact a crisis which is beyond the control of the employer and the contractor. Normally, when there is an outbreak of this hostility, there should be drastic actions from the government, and the safety of the civilians may be endangered, mainly due to these terrorism actions. Now, in the case of these hostilities, either the employer or the contractors may determine the employment of the contractor for this project, since this project is binding both the employer and the contractor. When there is an outbreak of hostilities, there are so many uncertainties. So either side may determine the employment of the contractor to release the obligations over the project. So if there is an outbreak of hostilities, this is regardless whether the war is declared or not, but it's going to involve general mobilizations of Malaysia's armed force. Then either the employer or the contractors may write notice to determine the employment of the contractor. That means the ultimate purpose here is to remove the contractors from this project. Now, this written notice will need to be delivered by hand or by registered post. Whoever write the notice will have to send to the other party and make sure the other party receive it. Next, we talk about the notice of these determinations. When there is an outbreak of these hostilities, the notice shouldn't be given immediately. We will have to wait for 28 days from the dates of the occurrence, or from the dates of the orders given for the general mobilizations of Malaysia's armed force. Then the written notice shall be considered valid. The purpose here is to observe the situations, whether it is going to be a prolonged hostilities, or can Malaysia's government quickly refrain the situations from getting worse. If the hostility can be resolved quickly, then there is no need to determine the employment of the contractor. But if the situation escalated, not being able to be resolved within 28 days, then the written notice shall be given. The other situations where the written notice shouldn't be given is that the work has already been practically completed. Since the work has already been practically completed, there is no point to determine the employment of the contractor. And this is unless the work has sustained war damage. Now the question is whether the contractor still be employed to finish up the damaged work. So the written notice can be used to determine the employment of the contractor. So when there is an outbreak of these hostilities and the written notice has been given, now the employment of the contractor has been determined. There should be architect instructions for the protective work. Within 14 days of receiving this written notice here, the architect will need to issue architect instructions to the contractor, requesting the contractor to execute the protective work to protect the work that has already been done, in order to minimize the damage as a result of these hostilities. The principle will be the same when the work is being suspended. The contractor cannot leave the work unprotected, as this is going to be unfair to the employer. As a result, the contractor should reasonably protect the work during the suspensions of work and also after the determinations of the employment of the contractor due to the outbreak of hostilities. With that, the instructions by the architect, the contractor will have to comply. This is provided that the protective work cannot be executed in 3 months from the dates of the architect instruction, which is beyond the control of the contractor. And when the contractor is unable to do the protective work exceeding 3 months, that the contractor has already tried his best, then the contractor may abandon the work. That means now the contractor has already did his part, just that the situations reached to a level beyond his capability. Although he wished to protect the work, tried for the 3 months, but still cannot, then the contractor may abandon the work. Now, in terms of the payments resulting from the determinations, within 14 days from the date of written notice of the determinations to the employments of the contractor will have to remove from the site all his temporary buildings, construction plants, tools, materials and goods. However, before the contractor do this, he will need to seek consent from the architect, make known to the architect, and make sure the architect agree with the removal of those items in writing before the contractor can remove all his belongings. And then the employer will need to pay to the contractor for the total value of the work that has been properly executed, as well as the materials and goods supplied. The purpose here is to clear off all the outstanding payments to the contractor, since that the employment of the contractors has already been terminated, and the contractor will need to remove all his belongings and hand over the possessions of the site back to the employer. This is not the outcome as intended by both sides. Due to the outbreak of hostilities, there are a lot of uncertainty that may prevent both sides from carrying out their obligations. It is also concerning with the safety of the peoples as well as the good conditions of the structures. With that, the best option now is to have the contractor removed from the employment, and should they intend to continue later, a new contract will need to be formed between the contractors and the employer to proceed with the pending works.